Next up in the faction series is the Sassanid Empire. This is both a fun and interesting faction, and when I say fun and interesting, I of course mean shit. So for generals options, they have the very good Persian nobles, decent, cheap. However, they lack a bonus against cavalry, which somewhat reduces their utility, but they are very good against infantry due to heavy mass and also due to having their melee damage is low, but they have longer range than other melee units for some odd reason. So on the charge, just due to their high mass, they will do a lot of damage. The Savar and Sardar don't have quite the tankiness of the Persian nobles. They have 2 precursor arrows, which is next to useless. I don't see a reason to bring the Savar and Sardar over the Persian nobles, to be honest. Although they do scare, so it can be quite cool to play around with scare and warcry. Then we have the Spabed, and the Spabed also have 2 precursors, horrible oversight or just bad design decision by the Creative Assembly. They have a decent amount of health, a decent amount of armor. They're only medium, so in terms of generals options, if you don't want to go for the scare, the Persian nobles are your go-to guys. However, the -9 to scare can be devastating. If you are able to use scare and, for example, whistling shot, you're going to be able to reduce the morale of enemies by 21, and that together with the rear charge is a rout city for a lot of units. In terms of infantry, we have this pagan band, and they are quite funny. They have a very good chance to block incoming enemy missiles with a missile block chance of 50, lackluster stats, decent armor, not a whole lot of health, just your standard cheap spearmen, no defensive abilities, but they can hold for a significant amount of time considering how poor they are. Persian Levy, also a decent spear unit. Both of these units have massive morale problems. Armenian Spears, better morale, better armor, just overall a better spear unit, but you do pay a significant amount for it. They have the square formation, which can help them hold against enemy cavalry, especially if the cavalry charges into you in a spaghetti line. Then the square can be very useful for holding. Immortals and Elite Immortals, I do think the Elite Immortals have the highest armor in the game out of any infantry. They will still get wrecked by cavalry. They have the headhunt, they have precursors. Same with the Immortals, very high armor, good, decent defensive unit, but they are very expensive. For melee infantry, starting out with the Persian Brigade, and the Persian Brigade is sort of like the Freemen from the Franks. They have very good melee stats, but they just die so easily. But nice charge bonus, and in a flanking role, these guys can do a lot of damage. Then the Sogdian Warriors. Why these guys don't have a bonus versus infantry or better armor penetration, I do not understand. They have a great melee attack, good charge bonus. They die very easily though, no defensive abilities, but definitely one of the better melee units from the Sassanid Empire, and they are very cheap. The problem is the low melee damage, somewhat alleviated by the fact that they have 2 range on their maces, but I would have liked to see some more armor penetration on their maces as well. The Dalamite Warriors have a high amount of health and armor. They are decent for the price. Due to their low melee attack and lack of armor penetration, they are not great infantry, but still they can be useful with their precursors and with their shield wall that gives them an additional attack against enemy infantry. Same with the Elite Dalamites. For the price, they are underwhelming. They have good defensive stats with armor and health, good morale, but the melee attack is a bit on the low side. In terms of archers, we have cheap Persian bows, and what's cool about these guys is that they have 45 missile damage. However, they are not as good as the Germanic archers because they have 50 less range. The Persian bows have shields that gives them a 20% missile block chance. They have a nice rate of fire, but only 150 range, and only 150 range for archer unit that is this expensive is very bad. The same for the Kurdish archers. And the same for the Royal Persian Archers. I've gotten upwards of 200 kills with these guys. They do have maces that they use in melee, so they're not entirely useless in melee, but very high ammunition if you can keep them alive for long enough. Sturdy archer unit, but these guys really need 200 range. In terms of slingers, these Persian hurlers are much too expensive. They die in droves to missiles. If they cost 200, then maybe, but they are not really worth it. 125 range. And here we have an interesting unit, the Armenian Slingers. They have a good missile block chance, they have decent morale and health for being a skirmish unit, they have a good amount of armor due to their shields, and 14 ammunition. So if you're conservative with your precision shots, these guys have 175 range, which means they will be able to kite a lot of skirmishers in the game. They can also wreck cavalry, and their standard shot reduces the charge speed and speed of enemy units. So once you start raining down the stones on enemy cavalry units, they're going to be slower and they're going to have a harder time pulling out. So a unit like, if you fire at a unit that has 70-ish speed, it's going to drop down to around 50, which makes it a lot easier to hit the unit, even with precursors and infantry. Then we have skirmishers, Persian skirmishers, rapid advance, standard shot that is very good against cavalry, but this is a super fragile unit. Then we have the very expensive Kurdish javelins, and I don't see a use for these guys. I mean, yes, they can get a lot of kills, but they're just so vulnerable. Their melee capabilities are non-existent, and I just don't see a place for them in any army. The cavalry roster for the Sassanids is very diverse. We have the Persian mounted warriors. These are good units, good armor, decent health, very very cheap, high melee attack. They do not like getting charged by heavy cavalry, but if you can send them into a melee blob, they can do very well against enemy cavalry. And then we have a bunch of useless units. Persian scouts, no armor, die in droves. They have no redeeming features whatsoever. They are very light, they die. There's infantry in the game that has higher health than these guys. Same with the Lakhmid scouts. Again, if they had 5 or 10 precursors, maybe, but these guys have arrow precursors, only 2, and these guys only have 2 precursor javelins. The Camel Klibinari, bit on the slow side, very high health, very high armor, tanky as fuck. They are good against infantry. They scare horses, however, they are not good against cavalry. Melee cavalry will destroy them. The same for the Persian camel raiders. You pay a whole lot for a unit that is basically only good against infantry. That is not a good time, and same with the Sogdian camel raiders. They have precursors, but not. They have a nice set of abilities, scaring horses and resistance to fatigue and all of that, rapid advance. But the lack of precursors really hurt these units. In terms of shock cavalry, the Sassanids really shine, and well-timed cavalry charges can wreck infantry. The problem for the Sassanids is dealing with enemy cavalry, ironically. So, Persian cataphracts, very cheap, medium shock. Savaran cataphracts, you do get a bit more health and a higher charge bonus, so the Savaran cataphracts are better than the Persian cataphracts. Griff Panvar are a very good shock cavalry unit. You get extra health, you get extra armor, extra morale, basically more of everything with the Griff Panvar. Then we have the Pushtigban and the Gianavspar. These units are very strong units. 80 armor on a Gianavspar, great charge bonus, great health, but they are shock cavalry, so you're not going to very easily, if you cycle charge quickly against infantry, they're going to do a good job. But it's much better to bring the cheaper cataphracts and save funds for the rest of your army, because these guys will get eaten alive by melee cavalry. In terms of bow cavalry, we have the Persian mounted bows, and if these guys had Parthian shot, they would be great. However, they do not. Then we have Persian camel archers, and boy oh boy is this a useless unit. A horse archer or a camel archer for 925 with 26 ammo and no Parthian shot. Only 73 speed, not going to happen. The Shaidan Immortal Cavalry is a very decent medium bow cavalry unit. It suffers from a lack of speed, it does have Parthian shot and a lot of ammo. Rapid advance would go really well with this unit, but it's just too expensive to warrant bringing, in my opinion. The Sassanids could really have an edge in dealing with enemy cavalry if their Savaran cavalry had Parthian shot. But the lack of Parthian shot means that these Savaran cavalry will be running away from enemy cavalry more than they will be shooting at them, and their price is also very prohibitive. Same goes for the elite Savaran cavalry. Although, yes, they do have a lot of crossbow bolts, no Parthian shot makes these units next to useless. They can get over 300 kills if they're left alone, but they won't be left alone. They will be charged down and chased away. Now, elephants in Attila have a few problems. They can kill thousands of troops that lack precursors, but a single cavalry unit, any cavalry unit, is enough to stop the elephants and start killing them. So elephants, not worth it at all. They die so quickly, and the same goes for both the armored Indian and the Indian elephants. It's almost like their weapons don't work against they have mighty knockback and all that, but it's almost like they don't work against cavalry anymore. The melee damage is absolutely insane, and the charge bonus is insane, so they should be wrecking cavalry on the charge. However, they do not. The Naft throwers, a special little unit, they have a very short range on their Nafts. They only have one ammunition, but that one ammunition is you can actually reload. You can set fuse and add ammunition, and you can keep doing that. Their standard shot is going to give whistling shot penalties to enemies, so reduced rate of fire, melee attack, and morale. However, since these guys are not able to throw their nafts at the feet of enemy units or throw them at the ground, they are, in my opinion, completely useless. It's super easy to just run away from the nafts, and in order to ensure you get good hits, you really need to tie down enemy units or have them be stationary and then throw in, and of course friendly fire is going to be a real problem then. If you reload, your speed is going to be reduced by 50%, but you can use rapid advance, so you don't get any speed penalties. However, these units are not very fast to begin with, so it's going to be very hard to kite with these units. So, let's have a look at what the Sassanid units look like in battle, because there are some awesome looking units. I have been playing with the Sassanids quite a bit, and I do enjoy them. I actually haven't lost yet with the Sassanids, I think. Correct me if anyone has played me as the Sassanids and they defeated the Sassanids. But I don't think I would ever bring Sassanids in a competitive scenario. They lack the very important melee cavalry. Lacking good melee cavalry in Attila is like lacking good mid-tier swords was in Rome too. So, over here we have the Sogdian Camel Raiders. Great looking units. The Lockmid Scouts, Persian Camel Raiders, Persian Scouts, and these units have guerrilla deployment. Then we have the Elephants. The Elephants look much better than they did in Rome 2, in my opinion. They just perform much worse. For skirmishers, here we have the Persian bows, the Persian bowmen. They have shields. The shields do not protect them from the back, they only protect them from the front and from the left. Same with the Kurdish archers and the Royal Persian archers. Very cool looking units. Persian hurlers, Armenian slingers or Armenian kingers. Then we have the Persian skirmishers, very colorful. Another unit of Kurdish javelins, very colorful again. Nice looking beards on these guys. Then we have the Savaran cavalry and the Persian camel archers. Too bad that these awesome looking units are completely worthless in a multiplayer setting. The Gionov Spar, just devastating shock cavalry. Griv Ponvar, another devastating shock cavalry. Persian cataphracts, cheaper shock cavalry units. Persian mounted warriors. in my opinion, one of the best units in the roster in terms of cost efficiency. Elite Dalamite Infantry, Elite Immortals, very cool looking unit. Same with, and all spears in the game should probably have a massive price reduction, in my opinion. Armenian spears and Elite Savaran Cavalry, Shayed Immortal Cavalry, Persian mounted bows. Look at the headgear on these. Holy shit. That's some MLG headgear right there. Pushtigban cataphracts, Savaran cataphracts, Camel Klibinari, and Spobed. So that's it for the roster of the Sassanids. Definitely not a power faction. They have a few fun and quirky units, but just they lack overall effectiveness, sturdiness. You have to pull out some weird builds in order for the Sassanids to work. And I do not show. I know Heir of Carthage likes to show a few battles in his, or a battle in his faction focuses. If you want to see a battle where I use the faction I'm talking about, just search Maximus and then the name of the faction in the search bar on YouTube, and you will usually find a battle played by either me or a battle commented by me where you see different builds against different opponents. So if you want to see the Sassanids in action, that would be the way to do it, or else these videos are going to be much, much longer than they already are. Strength and honor.